Welcome back to the deep dive today. But we're diving into NVIDIA. Everyone knows them for gaming, but they're doing so much in AI and accelerated computing these days. So we've got their financials, all their press releases, even some stuff about how their employee stock program works. So we're going to get a real behind-the-scenes look here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and I think you're going to find it really eye-opening. NVIDIA is not just riding the AI wave; they're surfing on top of a tsunami here.
So let's start with the numbers. First quarter revenue for fiscal year 2025, $26 billion. That's up 262% year over year. What?
Yeah.
What's driving that kind of growth?
Well, it's all about AI. Their data center revenue just exploded, up 427% from last year. Think about it. All those large language models, all the recommendation engines you see, all those generative AI apps, they need a ton of computing power. And NVIDIA is making the hardware. That makes it all possible, Like selling shovels in a gold rush.
Right.
That's NVIDIA.
And it looks like they're making a lot of money from those shovels. Their gross margin for that first quarter was 78.4%. up from 64.6% last year.
That's a huge jump. It really shows how profitable that data center business is.
Absolutely.
Especially their Hopper GPU computing platform it's specifically designed for training and deploying all those complex AI models. And get this, they're projecting that those margins will stay high in the mid-70s for the entire fiscal year.
Sounds like they're pretty confident about the future, and they're definitely sharing the wealth with their investors. Buying back their own stock, $7 billion worth, just in the second quarter of fiscal year 2025, and $15.1 billion in the first half of the year.
Yeah, and they're not done yet as of the end of August. They had $53.9 billion set aside for even more buybacks, so it's clear they think their stock is undervalued, and they really want to get back to their shareholders.
And on top of all that, they increased their dividend to 1 cent per share for shareholders on record as of June 11th. So NVIDIA is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But let's take a look into the hood here. They operate across 4 main platforms: data center, gaming, professional visualization, and automotive.
Right. And it's clear that the data center business is the star right now, driven by AI. In the past 4 quarters, almost 40% of their data center revenue came from inference, which is using AI models to make predictions and decisions. They're not just providing hardware, they're building the whole ecosystem for AI.
And they're constantly innovating. They recently launched their Blackwell platform. It's a next-generation GPU architecture specifically designed for AI and a massive scale.
It's like they're building the infrastructure for the whole AI-powered future. And they're not limiting themselves to just data centers. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI and computer graphics.
Yeah, Beyond-Verse platform is a great example of that.
Yeah. Imagine a virtual world where artists and designers can work together in real time using all their favorite design applications. It's 3D design and simulation on steroids, all powered by NVIDIA's graphics and AI technology.
Then there's their automotive segment, their major player in autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
Partnering into hundreds of companies, automakers, suppliers, startups.
Right. Their D-Drive Hyperion platform is a great example. It's a complete AI computing architecture designed specifically for self-driving cars. It does everything from training the AI to running the systems that allow the car to, to navigate in the real world.
So NVIDIA seems to be on a roll, but like any company, they're facing some challenges.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One major concern is the potential impact of all this geopolitical stuff, especially what's going on in Israel.
Right. They have a large presence there. 4,000 employees working on their networking products.
Right. And while they haven't seen any major disruptions yet, they do acknowledge that if this conflict keeps going on, it could pose a risk to product development, operations, and ultimately their bottom line.
So that's something they're definitely keeping a close eye on. Another challenge they're facing is the constantly changing U.S. export control regulations.
Yeah, those regulations, especially the ones that are restricting sales of their chips to China. They present a real challenge. They could lose sales, have inventory problems, and even have trouble developing new products that meet those regulations.
It's like Cabra trying to hit a moving target in a global game of chess.
And then there's a whole issue of data privacy and security, which is a big deal for any company that's handling sensitive information, but especially for a company like NVIDIA that's so involved in AI.
Absolutely. They're operating in a world where those laws are constantly evolving, both in the U.S. and internationally. And if they don't comply, they face lawsuits, damage to their reputation, and lose the trust of their customers. So it's a real balancing act. between pushing the boundaries of technology
Yeah.
and making sure they're handling data responsibly.
Got it. And that's where things get really interesting. Because NVIDIA's success isn't just about their tech. It's about navigating these challenges and building trust with everyone involved.
So the big question is, can they keep up this amazing growth? Or will these tensions and export controls and data privacy concerns slow them down?
That's what we're going to explore as we continue this deep dive into NVIDIA. Stay tuned.
So we just talked about some serious challenges for NVIDIA. Geopolitical stuff, export controls, data privacy concerns. It's a lot to deal with. But there's another thing that could really impact them, and that's the global economy.
Yeah, you're right. Even a giant like NVIDIA isn't immune to the economy. You know, if there's a global downturn, demand for their products could drop, especially in their data center segment, which is so reliant on businesses investing in AI.
Right, so it's not just about their technology and their strategy. They're also at the mercy of the global economy, which they can't really control.
Exactly, and that's where their financial strategies and risk management become so important. They need to be able to survive if things get bad. And that means having a solid financial foundation and a plan for adapting to changes in the market.
They've definitely been successful in the past, but there's no guarantee that the future will be easy.
That's true. Think of it like this. NVIDIA's built this powerful engine for growth, but they need skilled people at the helm to steer them through any rough waters.
And one of the toughest things to navigate these days is the global supply chain. We've all seen how disruptions and geopolitical uncertainty can really mess things up.
It's a high-stakes game, especially for a company like NVIDIA that relies on a complex network of suppliers and partners to get the components they need, manage inventory, and get products to customers on time.
So how are they managing those relationships to make sure they have a steady supply of the parts they need?
Well, they've been very strategic about building strong relationships with key players in the semiconductor industry, which gives them an advantage when it comes to getting those parts, even when there are shortages.
But it's not just about getting the parts. They also need to be able to manufacture their products at a large enough scale to meet the huge demand.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting. They actually use a mix of their own production facilities and partnerships with other manufacturers.
So they're not relying on just one source. It's a way to spread the risk and stay flexible.
Right. It gives them more options and makes them less vulnerable to problems in any one part of the supply chain.
Now let's talk about their research and development. They're known for being innovators in computing. How much are they investing in R&D, and what are some of their key focus areas?
Well, just in the first quarter of fiscal year 2025, they invested $2.7 billion in R&D. That's a 45% increase from last year, which shows how committed they are to staying ahead of the game.
Wow, that's a lot of money. So where's all that money going?
A big chunk of it is going towards improving their core GPU technology, which is the foundation of their business. They're also investing a lot in improving their AI software platforms and developing new applications for their accelerated computing architecture.
So they're always trying to push the limits of what's possible with their technology.
Got it. But they're not just focused on chips and software. They're also investing heavily in networking technologies, especially their InfiniBand solutions, which are high-speed connections that are essential for building those massive AI clusters and supercomputers that are driving the next wave of computing.
So they're like building the highways for data to travel at lightning speed?
Exactly. They're creating the infrastructure that will power the future of AI. But of course, they're not the only ones in this game. They're facing some tough competition.
Right. Let's talk about that. Who are NVIDIA's main competitors, and how are they doing?
Well, in the data center and AI space, their biggest competitors are Intel, AMD Intel. With all its resources and its long history in CPUs, is a major player.
But they've been struggling to catch up to NVIDIA in GPUs, right? Especially when it comes to AI performance.
That's true. NVIDIA has a big lead there. But Intel is investing a lot in its own GPU development, so they're not giving up easily.
And then there's AMD, which has been gaining ground, especially in gaming, with their Radeon GPUs.
Right. And their recent acquisition of Xilinx, which is a leader in field programmable gate arrays, gives them a boost in the data center market, too.
So it's a real battle of the giants in the chip world. But it's not just about the traditional chip makers, is it?
No, it's not. The big cloud companies are also getting involved. Companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google are all developing their own custom chips and AI platforms, which adds another layer of competition.
So NVIDIA is fighting on multiple fronts.
They are. And it's not just about raw computing power anymore. It's about building these comprehensive AI platforms, developing easy-to-use software tools, and creating these ecosystems that attract developers and customers.
It's like a race to build the most attractive city in the AI world.
Exactly. The company that creates the most appealing ecosystem will have a huge advantage in the future of AI.
Okay, so they've got the technology, they got the resources, and they've got a vision for the future. But what does that future actually look like? Where does NVIDIA see itself going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, they're betting big on AI, of course. They see a future where AI is everywhere, in every part of our lives, from healthcare and finance to manufacturing and transportation.
So it's not just about video games and fancy graphics anymore.
No, their goals are much bigger than that. They want to be the leader of the AI revolution, the company that makes AI accessible and useful for everyone.
It's a bold vision.
Yeah.
But it also raises some important questions.
Absolutely. Questions about the ethics of AI, its potential impact on jobs, and the importance of responsible innovation.
And those are the questions we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. So we've been talking about all this growth at NVIDIA and their plans for AI in the future. But you're right, this tech brings up some big questions, like how do we make sure AI is used for good and not for bad?
Yeah, that's something a lot of people are thinking about, and for good reason. AI is a powerful tool. Like any tool can be used in good ways or bad ways. It all depends on how we develop it and how we use it.
So what is NVIDIA doing about these ethical concerns? How are they making sure their tech isn't being used for harmful stuff? You hear stories about AI being used to make autonomous weapons or to create algorithms that are biased against certain groups of people. It's a little scary.
It is scary, and it's something we need to be serious about. The good news is NVIDIA is aware of this, and they're taking steps to deal with it. They've said publicly that they're committed to developing AI responsibly and ethically, and they've created guidelines and review processes to check the potential impact of their technology.
So they're not just going full speed ahead, they're actually thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. They're trying to be proactive and think about problems before they happen. They've also joined these industry-wide groups that are promoting ethical AI development and creating standards and best practices for the whole industry.
That's good to hear. But it still feels like we're just getting started with AI, and there's a lot we don't know about what will happen. How can we as a society make sure that companies like NVIDIA are held accountable for the ethical side of their tech?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think it will take a lot of different things. We need strong regulations and oversight to prevent AI from being misused, but we also need to build a culture of ethics and responsibility within the tech world itself.
It's like we need checks and balances, both from outside the industry and from inside.
Right. It's about finding a balance between encouraging innovation and protecting against potential harm. And it's going to take a lot of discussion and collaboration between policymakers, industry leaders, and the public. We all need to be involved.
Absolutely. And speaking of the public, let's talk about how AI could impact jobs. A lot of people are worried about that. Will AI automate millions of jobs and lead to mass unemployment and social unrest?
It's a valid concern, and we can't just ignore it. History shows us that new technologies often create new jobs, even as they replace old ones. But the transition can be tough, and we need to be ready for it.
So it's not necessarily a case of AI taking all the jobs. It could create new opportunities even as it eliminates certain types of jobs.
Right. The key is to adapt and get ready for a job market that's always changing. We need to invest in education and training programs that give people the skills they need to succeed in an economy that's driven by AI.
It's all about lifelong learning and being able to adjust. Because one thing's for sure, the pace of change in technology is only going to get faster.
Absolutely. And it's not just about individual workers. Businesses and governments need to do their part, too, in creating a smooth transition to a future where AI is everywhere.
So where does NVIDIA fit into all of this? What are they doing to address the potential impact on jobs?
Well, for one thing, they're putting money into educational programs to train the next generation of AI developers and engineers. They're also working with businesses to help them use AI in ways that make them more productive and create new opportunities instead of just replacing jobs.
So they're trying to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Exactly. They're being proactive. But the truth is, the future of work in a world with AI is still uncertain. We need to stay alert, be able to adapt, and be committed to making sure that advances in technology benefit everyone, not just a few.
That's a really important message. So as we wrap up our deep dive into NVIDIA, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that NVIDIA is a company that's pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But with that power comes a responsibility to use it wisely. We need to make sure AI is developed and used ethically, that we prepare for the changes AI will bring to the job market, and that we work towards a future where technology makes life better for all of us.
Well said. And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into NVIDIA. We hope you found this exploration informative and interesting. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep